You ever notice how people say they respect strong parents until that parent doesn't look like what they expect? I'm a 50-year-old single dad. And from the outside, you'd think I was doing okay. I had a stable job, a decent house, a smart, kind-hearted son. But to the world around me, I was a walking red flag. They didn't see strength. They saw weakness, suspicion, failure. At first, it was just the looks. In the school pickup line, moms whispering behind SUV doors. At work, coworkers calling me Mr. Mom like it was a joke I should laugh at. But then came the gossip, the concerned emails, the closed doors. Suddenly, I wasn't just a single dad doing his best. I was a problem, a misfit, an inconvenience. You'd be amazed how fast people can turn on you when you don't fit their mold. But I didn't crack. I kept making breakfast every morning, even when I didn't sleep the night before. I showed up at every parent-teacher conference, even when I wasn't invited, and I smiled. For my son, I smiled, because what they didn't realize is that I wasn't fighting for their approval. I was fighting for peace, but peace doesn't come easy. And the moment they messed with my kid, that was the moment everything changed. You want to know what happened next? How a 50-year-old dad took on a judgmental community and walked away with his dignity and more. Stick around, because I promise, this story ends in a way they never saw coming. It all started 5 years ago. The morning my wife walked out without saying goodbye. No warning, no big fight the night before. Just silence. And a note on the kitchen counter. It said, "I can't do this anymore. Take care of Ben." Ben was 10, still liked superheroes and grilled cheese. He didn't understand why mom wasn't there that night. I told him she needed some time. But deep down, I knew she was gone for good. There was no custody battle, no drawn-out court drama. She vanished like smoke. And just like that, it was me and Ben against the world. I'm not a superhero. I've got an average job. IT support for a mid-size insurance firm. I don't own a boat. I don't golf on weekends. But I know how to make a kid laugh when he's on the edge of crying. And I know how to keep the lights on, even when the bills stack up. So I stepped up. Breakfast at 6:45. School drop-offs by 7:30. Late nights fixing bugged-out laptops just to make ends meet, all while pretending like I wasn't coming apart at the seams. You'd think that would earn me some respect, but the stares started almost immediately. The PTA moms barely looked me in the eye. They huddled at bake sales like I was some kind of threat. One even asked if I really knew how to handle a child's emotional needs. Like I'd adopted a stray dog, not raised a boy since birth. At work, it was no better. Suddenly, I was distracted, not as flexible. A few jokes at lunch turned into whispered conversations behind my back. And the neighborhood? Let's just say the Christmas invites dried up fast. People love the idea of a single mom. Strong, brave, but a single dad? That makes them uncomfortable, makes them suspicious. Still, I kept going. Not because I wanted applause, but because Ben needed a steady hand in a world that felt like it was falling apart. We built routines. Friday movie nights. Weekend hike. I started learning how to braid hair. Badly, when he wanted to grow his out like Thor. I listened. I showed up. I loved him. But while I was holding things together on the outside, inside, I was alone. No one asked how I was doing. No one brought over dinner. No one knocked on the door just to say, "Hey man, you holding up okay?" Just silence. And judgment. Even my own sister hinted I should send Ben to live with their mother for a while. Yeah, the one who disappeared. Because clearly, I was the problem. But I didn't break. Couldn't afford to. Not with those little brown eyes looking up at me every night, waiting for someone to make the world feel safe again. Still, there was something building beneath the surface. A slow, quiet anger. Not loud. Not yet. But it was there. Because while I was trying to give my son a life full of love and security, some people I trusted were quietly, methodically working against me. They smiled in my face and whispered behind my back. They thought I was weak, a man who wouldn't fight back, a dad barely holding it together. But they didn't understand something very important. I didn't survive everything just to roll over. I didn't keep my son's world spinning, just to let theirs crush it. And while they were busy underestimating me, I was paying attention. I was keeping track. And eventually, they gave me exactly the excuse I needed. The moment they came after Ben, That was the moment I stopped surviving and started fighting back. They didn't just talk, they acted. At first, it was subtle. A birthday party down the block. No invite. Ben saw the decorations on the walk home. He didn't say anything, but I saw it, that look. The one where a kid learns the world can be cruel for no reason at all. Then it became a pattern. The block BBQ, we were forgotten. The school fundraiser, our sign-up sheet went missing. The PTA moms were the worst. They smiled like real estate agents, but they gossiped like teenagers. He's unstable. Isn't he too old to be raising a kid alone? One even said she didn't feel safe with me around the classrooms. Safe from what exactly? Helping kids glue macaroni onto construction paper. It was ridiculous. Until it wasn't. Ben started coming home quieter, withdrawing. He wasn't chosen for the science club, even though he aced the entry test. He wasn't paired with anyone for the group art project. The teacher said it was a logistical oversight. Sure, an oversight, every single week. And me, my office where I'd worked for 12 years, turned cold almost overnight. Co-workers stopped talking to me unless they had to. I was passed over for a project I helped design, because they wanted someone more relatable. You know what that means, right? Younger, married, easier to sell to clients. Everywhere I turned, I was being squeezed out, excluded, silent, but nothing prepared me for what happened next. I got a call from the school counselor. Ben was being kept out of class. Why? Because someone anonymous, of course, had filed a complaint. Said I'd acted inappropriately at a recent PTA event. I wasn't even there, but that didn't matter. The school launched an informal investigation. Teachers looked at me differently. Ben was pulled aside, asked weird, invasive questions about our home life. I sat at my desk that night and stared at the wall, wondering how it came to this, how being a father, trying my best, turned into some kind of crime in their eyes. I nearly lost my job. I was suspended from the PTA pending review. My son, my brilliant, funny, thoughtful boy, stopped speaking up in class. He started apologizing for things that weren't his fault, started asking if I was mad at him. That broke me more than anything else. I sat in the dark one night. No TV, no phone, just me, the fridge humming, and the weight of it all pressing on my chest. I realized something in that silence. They weren't going to stop, not unless I gave them a reason to. They wanted me quiet, ashamed, grateful, just to be tolerated. They thought I was some worn-out old man too tired to fight back. They were wrong. They didn't know who they were dealing with. Because I've lived through worse. I've survived worse. And when it comes to my son, I don't back down. I don't stay quiet. And I sure as hell don't let liars win. So no, I'm not taking this. Not the rumors. Not the exclusion. Not the fake smiles and backstabbing whispers. They drew the line. They crossed it. And now it's my turn. You want to know how I turned the tables? How I made them wish they'd never tried to tear me down? Keep watching, because this is where the real story begins. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for justice and peace. But peace doesn't come from hoping people will do the right thing. Sometimes, you have to show them why they can't keep getting away with the wrong one. So I started small, a notebook, dates, names, what was said, where, who was around. I documented everything, the lost permission slips, the project rejection, the weird, overly polite emails from the school counselor, every whisper I overheard, every fake smile I endured. And as I watched, I realized I wasn't the only one they were mistreating. That teacher, Miss Cardenas, fresh out of grad school, she always looked like she was walking on eggshells at staff meetings. One day, after class, I simply said, "If they're trying to intimidate you too, I see it. You're not alone." She didn't say much at first, but a week later, she slipped me a copy of an internal memo, one that proved they knew Ben had been excluded from that project on purpose. Then came Alex, single mom, works 2 jobs, said she stopped going to PTA meetings because they made her feel like a maid in a country club. Turns out, her daughter had also been denied access to a gifted program. No reason given. And then, Mr. Jacobs. He used to be a district attorney before retiring. Now, just a quiet old man who walks his dog and reads the newspaper. But when I told him what was happening, his eyes narrowed. And he said, "They're sloppy and arrogant. That's a dangerous combination." Together, the three of us started pulling threads. We found discrepancies in the PTA's books, funds raised for new library supplies that never made it past the treasurer's house, favoritism in awards, field trips, even disciplinary action. One parent's kid got detention for a dress code infraction, another's got a pass because her mom's on the committee. We weren't reckless, we were deliberate, patient, and methodical. I wasn't some hot-headed parent on a mission. I was a 50-year-old man who knew how to wait for the right moment. You see, when you've been underestimated your whole life, you learn how to move in silence, how to let people walk all over you, just long enough for them to trip over your evidence. And while all that was happening at home, I focused on Ben. Not the drama, not the whispers, just him. We started talking more, really talking, about courage, about not letting other people shrink you down to fit their comfort, about finding power in the truth even when the truth hurt. He asked if I was mad about everything going on. I told him, I'm not mad, I'm focused, and that's more dangerous. Little by little, I saw his confidence return. He stood taller, asked questions again, laughed more. He didn't know the details. I kept him away from that. But he knew Dad wasn't giving up, and neither was he. Meanwhile, the web was tightening. More parents started coming forward, quietly, cautiously. One said, I always felt like I had to buy my way into that group. Another said her son stopped asking to go to school events because he was never chosen for anything. By the time spring rolled around, we had a file 2 inches thick, emails, budget spreadsheets, screenshots, testimonies. And the best part, we never broke a single rule. We just watched, listened, and waited. Because here's the thing about people who build their power on fear and gossip. They never expect you to fight smart. They expect you to rant, to make a scene, to look crazy. But I wasn't emotional. I was prepared. And when the time came to strike, it wouldn't just be for me. It would be for every parent they steamrolled, every teacher they silenced, and for Ben, who deserved better than a school full of adults who judged his family before they knew his heart. They thought they had power, but I had something they didn't: time, truth, and patience. Because revenge is easy. It burns fast and bright. But justice is quiet, sharp, and unforgettable. And I was just getting started. One email. That's all it took. One email changed everything. I waited until a Monday morning, 8:59 a.m. Inbox traffic's high. People are alert. Offices are full. Subject line: formal report. Documented misconduct within school PTA and administration. To school board. CC district superintendent. BCC a very curious local education reporter. Inside the email, a 47-page PDF, chronologically ordered, color-coded, with footnotes. Every shady dollar, every excluded student, every quote they swore would never leave that room. And just like that, the clock started ticking. First, silence, then chaos. The school board scheduled an emergency meeting. The PTA president, Melissa, the queen bee of condescension, she stepped down to spend more time with her family. Translation: she was cornered. They audited the books. Turns out, library supplies meant wine nights for the inner circle. The gifted program selections, heavily influenced by PTA favoritism. And those anonymous complaints against me? Yeah. Melissa's personal laptop. Logged into the Google account they used. It unraveled fast, faster than I expected. My name? Cleared. Officially. Publicly. The principal, who had conveniently misplaced multiple complaints from other parents, was reassigned. Which, if you know anything about school politics, is basically a velvet firing. And then the story hit the local news. PTA misconduct exposed by single father's investigation. Whistleblower dad sparks reform at suburban elementary. My face wasn't on it, but the phrase single father of one echoed everywhere. That night, I walked into the grocery store. A woman who'd never looked me in the eye before said, I just want to say, thank you. My son, he grinned ear to ear when a classmate's dad gave me a high five. Ben didn't know the whole story, but he knew we weren't invisible anymore. At work, it shifted to people who once brushed past me in the break room, now asked for my advice. I got a call from corporate, offering me a mentorship role. Your leadership under pressure, they said, is exactly the kind of initiative we value. Interesting, isn't it? Respect, once denied, freely offered after the storm. And the neighbors? Oh, the neighbors. Suddenly they were all so friendly. Invites to BBQs. Oh, we meant to include you last time. Ben got a last-minute invite to a birthday party he'd never heard of. I was polite, smiled, declined. You see, I wasn't angry. I just didn't need them anymore. And then came the meeting. The school board invited me, formally, to speak at a community forum. I didn't prepare a speech. I didn't need one. I stood up, looked out over the gym full of parents, some glaring, some guilty, most just listening. And I said, I didn't do this to win anything. I did it because our kids deserve better than silence. And no one, no matter how old, how different, how alone, should feel powerless in their own community. The board chair thanked me, officially, on record, said my work led to new transparency rules, oversight, and parent training. Melissa, she sat 3 rows back, face blank. No more pearls, no more power, just the woman who got caught. Funny how the truth levels everything. So, was it revenge? Not quite. It was justice. It was closure. It was peace. And let me tell you, there's no greater revenge than living well with your head held high in the same place they once tried to bury you. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. No racing thoughts, no whispered doubts, just stillness. And in that stillness, something surprising bloomed. Peace. I used part of the bonus I got, the integrity incentive, they called it, to buy a small lake house. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a porch, and a dock that creaks just enough to sound like home. Ben and I moved in that summer. He picked out his own room, said he wanted it facing the sunrise. He joined the debate team that fall, and for the first time he didn't shrink in the hallways. He started cracking jokes again, made real friends, kids who liked him for, not because their moms told them who to play with. Our weekends became sacred. Sometimes we'd fish off the dock in total silence. Other times we'd spend hours gaming, yelling over pizza boxes, and empty soda cans. Sometimes we just sat. No words, just air, water, and peace. And me. I dusted off my old tools, finally made space for woodworking again. Built a bookshelf, then a desk for Ben, then a little bench for the porch where I drink coffee and breathe. People ask if I'm dating again. I smile, say I might be. There's someone I've been talking to. She laughs with her whole face. Doesn't ask about my past, unless I bring it up. And when I do, she listens without flinching. Looking back now, I realize they hated me, but they never really knew me. And that's their loss. They saw a 50-year-old man with a tired face and a son in tow, and assumed I was weak, a burden, an outsider. But what they didn't see was the love, the fight, the quiet strength that comes from choosing to show up every single day, even when no one's clapping. I don't need their approval, never did, because I've got something stronger. A son who looks me in the eyes and says, I'm proud of you, Dad. A home filled with laughter and sawdust, a peace I built with my own 2 hands. And in the end, that's the real secret. They tried to shame me into silence, but I chose something louder. I chose peace, and I earned every quiet second of it. Sometimes, peace doesn't come from walking away. It comes from standing your ground, even when your knees are shaking, and no one's clapping. That's what this was for me. Not revenge, not a crusade, just a father doing what fathers do, protecting his kid, finding the truth, and refusing to stay small in a world that wanted him quiet. Hey, if you've ever been judged for who you are, instead of what you've done, drop a comment below. I want to hear your story. Trust me, you're not alone. And if you're still here, riding this out with me, you're my kind of people. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we've got more real stories coming your way. More truth, more justice, more peace found in the unlikeliest places. You never know who we're exposing next.